Commissioner Bill Peasley, who's nodding there, and Commissioner Alex Guest. Alex, I'm only seeing the top of your head. There you go. You got me a little better view now. So if you raise your hand, I can see it, I think. And June Michaud, Commissioner June Michaud, with our counsel and Secretary Steve Pelfrey, our court reporter Linda Garrett, and Alexandra Bendette, our host and staff person at the Property Tax Commission. So welcome everybody. I think yesterday we had the statement read, and we've got motions today and a continuation of the case. So I won't I'll read that again. If anybody has a conflict, please signify it. I think we probably have I hope Mr. Adden on. Do we have Mr. Adden?
Yes.
All right. I'm not seeing him. Let's see if I can get him up. There he comes. Or you brought him up, I guess. Good morning, Mr. Adden.
Good morning. Okay.
Have you got that foggy screen too? But it's got you foggy. Steve had the foggy screen yesterday behind him.
It looks like he has a bad internet connection, possibly.
Okay. Let's see if we are able to hear him. Mr. Adden, can you say something so we can see if he can hear you? Guess we can't right now. So we'll wait a minute. Well, while we're waiting, I'll go over the schedule for today. We have two motions to dismiss the Ball case and the CAC case. We'll find out how to pronounce that. Motions to motions to dismiss. We had another Schwarber case, and that has been withdrawn. And then we have 1, 2, 3 cases, 4, 5, 6, 7 more cases that were settled, and one more that was withdrawn according to my calendar. So, and then we have the continuation of the Martha Johnson case. We had some timing issues and technical issues with yesterday, and we hope to be able to finish that one this morning. Mr. Adden, when you get us, let us know. I think Steve's probably talking to him.
Seems like we've had this issue before.
On the phone with Mr. Adden just now. He is having issues connecting. He's not sure why, but I sent him another link. He's going to try logging out and logging back in, and if need be, he'll call in.
Okay, that'll be fine. We'll just, yeah, that'll work. Steve, do you want to, while we're waiting, do you want to try to do the administrative session or just wait until we finish up?
Sure. I mean, I don't think there's a tremendous amount to discuss, but I think we could while we're waiting for everybody to be available.
Sure. Well, the only thing I
Um,
know of is our December meeting and anything related to that. If anybody has anything else, we'll be glad to hear that as well. Steve, you want to update us on kind of where we are on that? You kind of briefed me on it.
Sure.
Do we want to stay on
So
the record and broadcasting?
Well, I think it probably our administrative sessions would be public, wouldn't they? I thought about that, but
I didn't know if you wanted to stay
Yes.
on the record. That's all.
well, I don't think there's any problem with it. So let's just do it, unless it's supposed to be private, which I'm not sure it should be.
No, I think
Steve?
it was just a matter of whether or not it would be part of the transcript.
Oh, Linda, you don't need to make this part of the transcript, okay? That's a good point. Thank you, Bill, Steve.
So it looks like the best option available right now for the commission for December to meet in person is going to be the Atlantic Avenue facility that the Department of Revenue owns, and that's at the intersection of Atlantic Avenue and Millbrook. And we have talked about meeting there before, but haven't actually done that yet. The Utilities Commission building is in use that week, so that was not an option for us. We still, again, have the possibility or have the ability to use the auditorium at the Archives building on Salisbury, but because any new place requires us to be able to access it fairly easily so that we can get things set up and that type of thing, and also have some control over how easy it is for people to get in and out and that type of thing. We felt like the Atlantic Training Center was probably the best option. DOR is okay with our use of the facility. We'd still need to, wear masks and notify folks that they would need to wear masks and that type of thing. I am modifying a draft that I received about sort of a notification that would go out to folks that would be attending an in-person session. Don't come if you're sick and wear a mask and that type of thing. And so that will go out with the December 20-day notices. When those go out, I think next week. So that's pretty much it. DOR, I don't think I finished this thought. DOR is fine with the commission using the building again and so forth, and having people come in for hearings. Room 135, the usual hearing room, is again available. It's still kind of a smallish room, but if we get to the point where everybody's comfortable with that, then we could kind of resume having hearings as we've had in the past in person. That room does not have audio video capability, so that's something that sort of in a longer term sense, or a mid-range term sense, I guess, we'll want to explore and try to figure out how to continue to offer that as an option without having strictly virtual or strictly in-person sessions and that type of thing. So I'm going to see if I can find out what the status is on upfitting that room, the normal hearing room, with cameras and audio, as was part of the plan some months ago. And there may be some sort of portable option available to us for that as well. But anyway, we also can talk about the possibility of rearranging room 135, the hearing room. In other words, is there a way to reconfigure the space so that people can be more spread out, so it's more conducive to safe hearings and that type of thing? And of course, as we get a little further down the road, that may be less of an issue, hopefully. But that's kind of where we are on everything. Short term, though, December is going to be at the Atlantic Training Center. We can make sure that everybody's got an address for that. Plenty of parking, places for lunch if there's a lunch break and so forth, and relatively easy access to the building. So.
Okay, and while we're there in December, we thought we would go over, at least Steve and I, if any of y'all want to go as well, we'll go over to our old hearing room and see about reconfiguring it. And also discussing with DOR what needs to be done to get that room so it has audio and visual capability. Seems like that shouldn't be too difficult for them to get done.
I have a question.
Sure, Gene.
The Atlantic location, does it have audio capability and virtual meetings, audio?
No, it does not. And in fact, Alexandra had asked about that. And, you know, when we were talking about meeting there sometime late summer, I think, and really did not get a very favorable response about our options for doing that. I think she even asked about whether or not we could just use a couple of laptops and use the cameras on those. And it just, it really didn't get very far. And we ended up not really pursuing that because we had another place to go. So, but we can follow up on that and find out what options might be available. But there's nothing in that facility now for teleconferencing.
Steve, I guess the other room is still available there if we wanted to do a virtual hearing. Does that still available?
Well, yes. So as long as it's not, the short answer is yes, but unless somebody else needs it for something, but that is not a normally used room. And right now with the building generally being, well, having greatly reduced occupancy, I don't expect that it would be a problem for us to use room 101 where the audio video stuff is at the DOR building.
We have that room reserved already, in
Okay.
case we need it.
Okay.
For
good.
December? That's reserved for December?
Okay, and so that would be the commissioners meeting, but outside parties not being there? Is that correct?
So-
Well, we would have the option for, I guess, either, and we could decide if in fact they tell us we can't have a,
So the issue with
in-person
using
hearing.
the 101 room for in-person hearings is that every person has to sign in with a visitor's badge, and every time they leave the room, they must be escorted, whether it's to use their phone, use the bathroom, do anything.
So that room has never been a really practical option for in-person hearings. We could possibly work around it. I mean, one possibility would be if because the normal hearing room is now available and that is essentially part of the public space, then people could wait in that room, and only the parties whose case was being heard could be escorted down to room 101. That's a possibility. There's also possibilities of sort of staggering scheduling so that not so many people are around at one time. There's a few different ways that we could potentially deal with that if it became necessary. But at this point, it seemed like at least for the December session, the most efficient answer was to just meet at the training center where there's plenty of space. There is a secured door to get in and out of the building, but once you're inside the building, you have, you can kind of roam freely to the restroom or whatever you might need to do. So it's not too burdensome to that end.
And there, everybody's going to have to wear a mask, correct?
In any DOR facility, everyone's going to have to wear a mask for December.
Okay. I respectfully, we have Thanksgiving coming up. We have Christmas coming up and cold weather. You're going to see a spike. I think you ought to just stick with virtual. But
Well, I think we had talked earlier about trying to go back for December in person. If we get, and the state tells us the more information, then obviously that may be the next step.
well, while virtual has its issues, as we all know, everybody talking through a mask and hearing everybody is going to be just as problematic.
Well, you don't have to wear the mask when you're talking. That's my understanding. That's every place I've been, nobody's been wearing masks when they're
If,
when they're talking.
as far as I know, if you are in the DOR building, whether you are socially distanced or in a room by yourself or talking, you are required to wear a mask at all times.
Well, we need to check that.
I can reach out to HR about that, Steve.
Thank you.
I think when we've been talking, we've removed our mask. I have every place I've been, but check and see. We don't want to violate policy. Yeah, it's something else I just thought of, but I guess I lost it. Maybe think about it later. So we'll see how this goes, if it goes, and then we'll look at how that works, and then possibility of going back to our regular building. So far, I guess people have been pleasantly, I don't know if it's surprised or not, but the gatherings that have been taking place, the large ones, football, basketball, places like that, they haven't seen the spikes that some people might have expected. I think where they get parties around college campuses, the Halloween parties and people being close together and doing things that college kids do, they've seen some spikes. But
I think my preference for December, and it's my preference, is that we continue virtually, but I'll, try to attend whatever the decision is to go in person. I think we're talking about what being outdoors versus not when we're talking about these large gatherings. But secondly, I would prefer the downtown location, and thirdly, Atlantic Avenue. And I'm just thinking about me getting in and out of there, and that's maybe a little selfish, but I do have to think about that as well.
Sure.
Getting to Atlantic Avenue from where I'm coming from.
It's
so
about
June,
20.
Go ahead, Steve.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to say the Atlantic Training Center is about 20 or so minutes north of the DOR building, and just kind of off the top of my head, it's sort of in between 440 and 540. So there's not Capitol Boulevard's a great way to get to it, but I don't know that there's a great east-west way to get to it.
Right, right. I've been there. I've been
Okay.
there to the real estate school.
Okay.
June, let me ask, are you concerned about your health if we meet in person? Is that your main issue?
I would be more comfortable if we continued virtually for December.
Okay, it'll change. Steve, how will that change our
But again,
agenda?
I'm just
Because-
one. I'm one.
Well, but I don't want anybody to feel to have a safety issue. If you don't feel safe, Steve, how would that affect our calendar?
Well, there is one significant case that is on right now for December, anticipating an in-person hearing. Those parties have indicated that in the past that virtual is not ideal, I think, for the number of witnesses and the amount of documentation and so forth that they would have to share. So that would probably be continued. There are other cases, but I don't have that full list in front of me. The biggest administrative thing that we'd have to deal with is just if it's going to change to virtual from in person, the sooner we can let Alexandra know that, the better, because notices will be going out, as I said, I think next week. So we can get that set up. We can convert to virtual pretty easily. It's just far better to give people one notice rather than saying, come to the Atlantic Training Center and then follow up with a letter and say, no, never mind, it's virtual. If we can go ahead and let them know that next week, if it's going to change, that would be better.
And, you know,
That was-
my comfort level with it could change. I mean, you know, it's like day to day basically with this virus and what's being reported and so forth. So, um, you know, whatever the decision is, I'll try to support it.
Well, let me ask, Steve, has the 50-day notice that went out, did it say that would be in person? Did it?
No, the 50-day notice is the same one way or the other.
Okay,
So
so
it's
they haven't
always
been
the
told.
20-day letter that tells them where the hearing or how the hearing is going to be conducted, where it's going to be, and that type of thing.
Okay, well, June, if you don't feel comfortable in doing it, then what, I'm certainly willing to move it at some point in time. If we don't go back to in person, we're gonna have all these cases. We've got several, I think, that we postponed, so at some point in time,
Hmm.
we will need to have some in-person hearings, but I don't guess it's that big a issue to delay another month and see what happens. Anybody else have? Harry, I think you'd indicated you'd like to go back in person.
Well, and
but,
I'll tell you my one and only reason. It certainly has nothing to do with me. It seems that we've had last month. It was, I think, Mr. DeLone or someone like that, and the taxpayer yesterday. There, a lot of them are not technologically savvy. I'm certainly not, but that's not what my concern is.
we
have
have
people like
Alexandra.
Well, that's correct. The lady yesterday had to obviously get a room somewhere, probably in a county building or something, and then she gets run out of it. And Mr. DeLeon last month, we couldn't get him in. It just seems that some taxpayers don't have that expertise to be virtual. It concerns me when that happens. Yesterday was quite unusual. I don't know where Mrs. Johnson was, and it could be that she didn't have a computer and had to go somewhere and use somebody else's. I don't know. That's my concern.
Anybody else?
I have a question about using the DOR building. Would we be able to start having meetings there? Like if we said January or in December, could we have meetings at that location as well?
Yes, in fact, when we asked about the availability of the Atlantic Training Center, we were told that since they're no longer doing screening in that hearing room, the hearing room is available. And I don't know if that's the room you mean or the larger one with the cameras and so forth. But either of those rooms is available for December.
Mhm. DOR, just in the building, period. Okay.
Right. In the building, it's that apparently has relaxed about public gatherings and so forth.
Mhm.
So at least for purposes of conducting hearings, that's permitted.
Well, June, let me ask you this. If we went into our regular hearing room, would you have concerns about your health?
Well, I think there's some concerns that have been voiced in terms of the space. Um, that it's a smaller room and that you'd have to manage the uh, persons attending the meeting. But again, it's just a comfort. It's not, you know, it's just a comfort. And, you know, it's something that, you know, I may need to work on, you know, because eventually we will need to go back into in-person sessions. But with the holidays coming up and the spikes, you know, as Bill has said, um, I'm not comfortable at this time saying that I would attend uh, in December in person, period. But you know, I could get there. So, I mean, I appreciate you wanting to accommodate me in this. But you know, if all of the other commissioners feel comfortable with going back in, then
Well, here's the thing, our calendar is set for the 13th through the 16th of December. if we get exposed, that means everybody's going to have to isolate through the holidays. That means, if you're exposed, I mean, I would not subject my family to a potential exposure. I would isolate, and that's going to put you through the holidays. So
That's a good point. Anybody else?
End of the year, holiday season, maybe consider we going virtual in December and then January. That will give the staff also an opportunity to work through some space concerns or issues as well, coordinating.
Okay. Then are the other commissioners okay if we change to a virtual hearing for December and then try to go back to in person in January, assuming that we're still permitted to do so?
What problems does that cause with that case, Steve? You'd have to cancel that one, correct?
Yes, it's not really a problem, I don't think, with the case. I don't think that the either the appellant, it kind of all comes down to whether or not it creates a hardship for the appellant or for the county. And to some degree, the parties are generally, or parties in general are okay with waiting a little bit, but as things drag on, then you get into new reappraisal cycles and that type of thing. And I'm kind of talking bigger than the January or December agenda and so forth. But generally speaking, it's not a problem to continue cases. And I think that everybody's been pretty understanding. We would have to continue it probably more than the normal couple of months because of the witnesses that are involved, and we'd have to work around their schedules and so forth. But I don't think that it would create a hardship for anybody, at least based on my understanding of it now.
But we would need to continue because they had asked for in person, hadn't they?
Yes, and really, I do think that more complex cases are harder to handle virtually.
Yeah. All right. Alex, you got any words of wisdom?
Don't know about that. I do agree with everyone that if we were to take the in-person case from December and maybe move that into January, that gets all of us through the holidays and it lowers the risk that we may all have. As far as being exposed or potentially exposing any family or friends or anything that we will be interacting with. So maybe a good idea. So.
All right, why don't we do it? But Alex, that case probably can't be put in January, Steve, can it? You said it had to be moved more than
I would
a couple
expect
months.
not, because there is another case already scheduled for January that is, I think two actually, that are about a day or so each. And so this one would not fit in there. And again, it's really, it normally boils down to when all of the witnesses are available. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
February,
let's
whenever.
go ahead and move the session for December to virtual. And we'll continue that case. And Steve, you work on the calendar and see if the other cases can still be heard. And if not, see if you can find some people who might be willing to have their cases added that could be done virtually,
Okay.
so we don't lose a month. Everybody comfortable with that then? Okay.
Mhm.
All right, where are we with Mr. Adden or Ms. Johnson, Alexandra?
It appears that everybody is in attendance as far as I can tell.
Oh, okay. Well, good. Let's get Ms. Johnson so we can tell her that we're going to do these two motions first, and then we'll get back to.
Okay, hers will just be audio. I'm assuming
Okay.
it's the same issue as yesterday. It's possible that if she's using a desktop computer, she may not have a webcam or, something like that. But I can get her
Okay.
on audio.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay.
Ms. Johnson?
Good morning.
Good morning. We're glad to have you back. Sorry that things didn't work out so we could finish up yesterday, but and also Mr. Peters and his people, can they hear us, Alexandra, or do you need to bring them on so that tell them?
Everybody who's an attendee can hear and see everything.
Okay,
So they
good.
should be able to hear, but if you would like for me to make them over to
Well,
make him a
not right now.
panelist.
That's okay,
Okay,
as long as they can hear me.
okay.
Ms. Johnson, we've got two motions that we're going to hear first, and then we'll get back into your case. They normally don't take very long, so we don't have these other people tied up for the rest of the time hearing your case. So
Okay, that's
it shouldn't be long.
okay.
Mr. Adden, are you with us now? Your box is coming up.
Okay, I'm here. Looks like I'm here.
Right.
Good. I enjoyed listening to your conversation about virtual and in-person hearings.
Well, we have to deal with that, unfortunately. That's with us, and let's hope that that's gone before too long, but none of us probably know the answer to that question right now. Mr. Adden, we have two cases from Mecklenburg which you filed motions to dismiss. The Piontek and Ball case 19 Property Tax Commission 545 is the first one. And we'll hear from you regarding the motion to dismiss that you filed in that case.
Okay, this motion to dismiss was filed on June 2nd, 2020. The taxpayers appealed to the Board of Equalization and Review, and the BER decision. First of all, my motion that was filed has an affidavit from Brooke Millard with South Data regarding the mailing of the BER decision. The BER decision was dated September 18th, 2019. It was actually mailed on September 17th, the day before, but for purposes of the running of the 30 days, it would start the date of the BER decision, which was December 18th, 2019. As the commission well knows, taxpayers have 30 days to file an appeal to the Property Tax Commission under 105-290E. 30 days from September 18th would be Friday, October the 18th, 2019. According to information from the Property Tax Commission, the postmark on the envelope of the notice of appeal was October the 19th. So it was 1 day late. The appeal to the Property Tax Commission, I understand, was postmarked on October 19th, which was a Saturday. It needed to be postmarked on Friday, October 18th. It was 1 day late. Accordingly, the Property Tax Commission does not have jurisdiction to hear this matter and asks that it be dismissed.
All right, Steve, do you have the file that shows that it was actually the 19th?
Yes, sir. I'm pulling that up right now. And yes, our file indicates that it was in fact filed on October 19th, 2019.
Okay. Any commissioners have any questions? Anything further from Mr. Adden?
No, nothing further from me. Thank you.
All right, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, was the taxpayer
Yeah.
notified to be here today?
Steve?
Yes, sir. Vice Chairman Wheeler, the 20-day notice in this matter was mailed to the parties on October 26th, 2021. That notice contained the time, date, manner, and purpose of today's hearing.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Do I have a motion in this matter?
So moved.
Who was that, Bill?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Peasley moves that we grant the county's motion to dismiss, seconded by Commissioner Guest. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to grant the county's motion to dismiss, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And Steve, just procedural question. This one was filed back in June of 2020. Normally, we hear these motions to dismiss before that, don't we?
Yes, sir. We do to some degree. I believe we do to some degree rely on staff to kind of take a look through the cases as they get filed and evaluate them. So in other words, whenever an appeal gets filed with the commission, staff review those appeals and kind of schedule them accordingly, talk it over with the property owner and county and so forth. In this case, what I imagine happened because of the relatively large number of appeals that have come from one of the larger counties, it just took a while for staff to come across this one and realize that the motion needed to be scheduled.
And
But-
your comment raised an interesting question. You said one of the larger counties. We used to think of Mecklenburg as the largest county. Did Wake surpass recently Mecklenburg County in population?
Mr. Chairman, I did not want to wade into the Wake Mecklenburg population thing, so.
Okay, all right. So that motion is granted. Mr. Adden, can you, we'll hear you on 21 Property Tax Commission 147 and your
Mr.
motion to
Chairman.
dismiss. Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. The attendee list does show that Mr. Sees is in the is an attendee.
Okay, good. Well, good. Let's see if we can, Mr. Cease, and make sure we're pronouncing your name properly. I do see you here now. I didn't have that
You-
on my screen.
Yes, you're pronouncing correctly. It's Cease.
Okay, good. We have your audio. Do you want to come up on the video?
I mean, that's up to you guys, not necessarily, but more than happy to show myself on video.
All right, well, if you can, it's nice to see who we're dealing with. It's not an issue with you. All right, we have a video. Good. All right, Mr. Adden, we'll hear from you in this motion to dismiss you filed.
Okay, this motion to dismiss is also for being untimely to the Property Tax Commission. The motion was filed on July 26, 2021. Attached to the motion was an affidavit from Brooke Millard with South Data regarding the date of mailing of the BER decision. The BER decision was dated January the 8th, 2021. It was mailed on that date, January 8th, 2021. 30 days from that date would be Monday, February the 8th, 2021. This particular appeal, according to information from the Department of Revenue, was that it was filed on February the 12th. So it was 4 days late, as according to the statutes in the case law. Being late, the PTC does not have jurisdiction over this matter. Therefore, we'd requested it be dismissed also. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Cease, we can hear you from you in this matter. You've heard the county and their motion, and you would have gotten a copy of that and the affidavits. What would you like us to know about this motion to dismiss in your matter?
Well, what was the postmark? I mean, I received this via mail, correct? What was the post dated on the envelope date that I sent that back?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, according to the file, there is no postmark on the envelope. It was received in the office on February 12th, 2021. The AV-14 has a signature date of February 8th, 2021.
All right. Mr. Cease, go ahead.
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, my wife was unable to attend due to a work matter, but if it was delivered on the 8th, but wasn't filed to the 12th, when do you have a record on when it was actually hand delivered? Are you saying since there was no postmark that it was actually delivered in person?
Steve, you want to go ahead? You have the information on that.
The letter, the envelope that we have has stamps on it. It was received in the office on February 12th, 2021. There is no postmark on the envelope.
Mr. Cease, as I understand the requirements that we deal with, if there's a postmark on it, we use the postmark date. If there's no postmark on the letter, then we have to use the date that it is received in the Department of Revenue in the filing in the mail there that they put in their file.
Okay. I'm again, if there was no postmark, does that mean that it was hand delivered? And you're saying that it's recorded, or when the day that it's actually hand delivered, if that was the case, that would be the date on the February 12th?
Steve, you can explain that, but as I understand it, the postmark would have been when you put it in the post office. If you actually get the U.S. Post Office to put
Correct.
a postmark on the day you send it.
Correct.
If you don't request that, then, and they don't put it on there, which I don't think they normally do now, Steve, you might reply to that, then we have to go by either the postmark date, if there is one, or the date we receive it. Is that correct, Steve?
Yes, so two things. One is that if an item is hand delivered, it is stamped on the day that it is delivered. So someone comes down from our office to the DOR building is a secure facility, so the public can only get into the security desk. Somebody from our staff comes down and will date stamp something that is filed by hand. In this case, it certainly appears that if it was delivered by hand, it was delivered on February 12th. If it came by mail, it was received on February 12th. There is no postmark on the letter, and there is not always a postmark on the letter, but the statute is set out on page 2 of the county's motion, and the statute says that the notice of appeal submitted to the Property Tax Commission by U.S. mail is considered filed on the date shown on the postmark stamped by the Postal Service. If an appeal submitted by U.S. mail is not postmarked, or the postmark does not show the date of mailing, the appeal is considered to be filed on the date it is received in the office of the commission.
Yeah, I understand that. I read that. I just can't imagine that I would put postage on an envelope and not mail it. And I guess I was unaware that the post office did not postmark mail. I know we've had issues with the mail with COVID. And I can get verification. I can't imagine that my wife, I sure didn't hand deliver it. And again, trying to figure out why we would put postage on the mail without actually sending it through the U.S. Postal Service. So I guess my only comeback to that is I know that it's been pretty well documented that the Postal Service has had issues delivering mail. And I guess I would like some consideration since we're only talking 3 days.
Mr. Cease, this is not the first time we've had to deal with this, unfortunately, and with the statutes the way they are, and if in fact that's the situation, we don't have any discretion in this case. There is no jurisdiction for us to hear the case, so we get put in that situation. You do have the right to file an appeal next year if this one is dismissed, and since the county has made that motion, unless there's something that gives us information to deny it, then we would have to grant it. Any other commissioners? Mr. Cease, do you have anything else you want us to hear, or any other commissioners have any questions of Mr. Cease or Mr. Adden?
Well, at this point, I'm not sure it would make a difference if I said anything, if that's your decision. I mean, if we're not gonna hear the case or hear the appeal, then, I'm not sure what I need to say to change your mind.
Well, I understand. And like I said, you're not the first one to get caught up in this situation. But it's a situation, unfortunately, where we don't have discretion, unless we have something to show that the time, requirement was met.
If I'm not the first one, what remedy, I mean, if I'm not the first one that's gone through it, and if I'm dependent on the postal service, what would be your recommendation? Just hand deliver it?
Steve, you wanna address that? What his options would be to make sure, assuming he's gonna.
Well,
And
he could ask the postal service to stamp it. You
Right.
when you turn it in, you say, "Could you please stamp this?" And you can watch them do it.
Okay.
That's
And
that is a remedy.
I didn't know that was an option, and I don't know that it was mentioned in any of the documents that was something that I needed to be concerned about as far as it being postmarked. And I guess my other question, if you're using the postal service to mail these out, do you guys make that request on the postmark when you stick it in the mail?
Mr. Adden, that would be a question for you, I guess.
Well, the other option is to send it certified mail.
Correct.
Certified mail, they end up postmarking it.
Okay, fair enough.
Mr. Pelfrey, you raised a good point. We have had this happen before. Can we look at our instruction letter that the county sends out? All the counties do this, and maybe emphasize there about the postmark. So we'll look at that, Mr. Cease, and see if we can do something. Mr. Adden?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the county BER decision letter was attached to the motion to dismiss. The last 2 pages of it states the appeal, and the word must is underlined in bold, be received by the commission, or, and in bold, postmarked by the U.S. Postal Service within 30 days, end of bold, from the mailing of the county board's decision. So we lay it out that it
Okay.
has to be received or it has to be postmarked by the U.S. Postal Service. We don't say it has to be mailed within 30 days. We state in the decision, postmarked by the U.S. Postal Service
Okay.
within 30 days. So
Okay.
it's clearly set forth in the county's appeal notice decision, and I believe that's probably from directions from the Department of Revenue also.
Okay. Anything to add to that, Steve? Mr. Pelfrey?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. Any more, Mr. Cease? Anything else from you?
I mean, I guess I'm waiting for your instruction. What else can I say if it's being dismissed?
Well,
What else can I say?
we have to vote, but so far it looks like we don't have any other options. Any commissioners have any more questions? Mr. Adden, anything else from you?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Do I have a motion in this case?
So move.
Vice Chairman Wheeler moves to grant the county's motion due to our lack of jurisdiction to hear the case. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Michaud. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to dismiss, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. And it's unanimous. Mr. Cease, we don't have any discretion in this. And so that's something that the legislature has set out the requirements for the appeal. And it's been, if it's not met, then we do not have jurisdiction to hear the case. So it's not like we're we just don't have any discretion. I guess
I
that's the best
understand.
way to say it. But
That's
we would
more
tell
than
you,
fair.
you do have the right to file another appeal for this coming year. So you do have that right. And then if you follow everything, and if you're not satisfied with what happens when you appeal to the county, you have the right to appeal back to us. And I'm sure if that happens, you would make sure it's timely the next time.
I sure will. But I guess the last question, so I'll have another option to appeal with the county for the same time period as on this evaluation?
It will be for next year. You can't appeal this one.
Okay. So there'll be a
just-
new evaluation coming out?
Not a new valuation, it'll be the same one, but you can appeal it for next year. It just wouldn't apply to, this was, 2020? Is that right, Mr. Adden? Or was it 9?
Yeah, he would have the option to appeal for the 2022 tax year as long as the appeal is filed prior to the board's adjournment date, which will be sometime in early May of 2022. So forms for appeals will be going online sometime in 2022. The next county revaluation will be January 1, 2023. So the next cycle will be in 23.
Okay, anything else?
No, thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Adden. All right, we'll get back into the Johnson case. Let's make sure we got everybody.
Thank you.
It's 10 o'clock. Everybody okay? Anybody need a break before we? Okay. So we'll just get Ms. Johnson, Mr. Peters, and whoever else he has back.
Steve, sorry, this is Allie. Is Tarasa Lewis? I'm sure I didn't say that right, but is she with Edgecombe County?
She is.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Mr. Chairman, we should have everybody.
Okay. Ms. Johnson, I see Mr. Peters. And it's just, I guess, I see Ms. Lewis, who's with the county. And Ms. Johnson, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, and we can hear you. So I
Wonderful.
think yesterday when we left, you had, I believe, rested your case, and it was up to Mr. Peters to, well, not rested your case, but finish your testimony. And we've admitted all the exhibits from both sides. I think the, is there anything else you want to add before Mr. Peters examines you, and then you'll have a chance after he examines you to offer any rebuttal evidence?
No, I can wait until after he makes his presentation.
Okay, Mr. Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning. We'll be very brief on the cross. Good morning, Ms. Johnson.
Good morning, Mr. Peters.
Good to talk to you again. I'll be really
Same.
quick. Ms. Johnson, the last question I asked you yesterday, I believe, was if you had had an opportunity to review the appraisal that the county submitted as Exhibit 16. Do you have the county's exhibits with you this morning?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part.
Sure. Do you
Mr.
have?
Peters, can you
the
speak
county's
up a little bit
exhibits?
more? Your voice is coming over pretty low and soft.
Okay, I apologize. I'll see if I can do better. Can you hear me?
That's better, I think.
So, Ms. Johnson, I was asking if you had your copies of the county's exhibits with you
I
this morning.
do.
Okay. If you'll look to the appraisal, which is Defendant's Exhibit 16, the very last page of that. Do you see this? Are you at the last page, Ms. Johnson?
I do. I'm assuming that's the residential appraisal report because mine's does not have an exhibit number on it. So
Okay, it should have one of those green or teal.
I got it. I'm sorry.
You're,
I have it.
you're okay. So the very last page of that appraisal, can you flip to that page?
Sure,
As the one photo.
sure. I'm there.
Okay, is that a photograph of your attic, Ms. Johnson?
Hold on a minute. So it's all the way in the back. Oh, okay. Wait. Yes,
Okay, and you have, it looks like, it's hard to tell because the picture's dark, but it looks like you have some items stored on more than half of the attic space. Is that right? Is that fair to say?
no, that is not right.
Okay, what is that stuff that we see? Is it
Um,
stored in your attic?
Yes, there is something in my attic, but it's not over half the space. What you see is the loose, what you call it, the loose stuff that goes in the attic.
We talked about
That's
insulation.
what you're, insulation. That's what you're seeing. But there was something right down there, by the window. I did have something right there.
Are there not items on the right-hand side of the picture from where?
No, it's not.
Okay.
No, it's not.
Okay. Ms. Johnson, how do you get to that attic?
You climb up a stairway, and behind that stairway is located behind that stairway is my vent system for my house, my hot water heater, and a closet.
Okay. And was this at some point intended to be a second story space and it was just never finished for whatever reason?
No, it was not. It was never intended to be a second story space. If you'll look, I mean, well, you can't look, but what I've been saying all these many years and which panned out, corroborated by the February the 7th, 2003 letter from the appraiser and the other Edgecombe County tax assessor, is that there's nothing up there. Even Mr. Breedlove just told you yesterday that there's nothing there. You have to walk. You have to be careful and walk on the rafters. So,
well, do we see?
I don't.
It looks like to me that there's plywood on at least part of the attic. Is that right?
No, that is not right. I just finished stating that the rafters are there. There's nothing that's nailed down up there. Mr. Breedlove corroborated my statement. He told you that when he went up there, he had to walk on the rafter. He had to be careful so that he would not fall through the ceiling.
Well, I believe he testified that there's nothing was nailed down, but it appears to me that there is plywood over at least one rafter space. It looks like more than half of the attic. Do you not see the items at the front of the picture?
Well, it really does not matter because you have not had a visual of that attic. Nobody in the county has had a visual of that attic, but the hired person that the person that the county hired to go up and view that attic and make a determination has said in a sworn statement that there is nothing there. There is nothing there in that attic. He had to walk on the rafters. He had to be careful. There's nothing nailed down. And I've been in this house now 20 years. I have no idea. I'm a retired senior citizen. I don't plan on adding nothing. I don't have a family. It's just me. So, I mean, I do not understand the persistency in trying to make me have an unfinished attic by the county. I just don't understand it.
Ms.
You know,
Johnson,
and I, you know, no matter, I don't see it in the pictures, you know, and, you know, if you got two people that have verbally told you that there's nothing up there, I don't understand why you continue to try to make it be there.
Ms. Johnson, do you see the letters and word under that picture, the UNF attic?
Do I see what now?
Under that photograph, the letters UNF and then the word attic. Do you see that?
I do see that, but I also do not know who put that under there, under that picture.
Do you
So
assume
now I
that,
don't know whether that was the county or whether that was Mr. Breedlove.
do you assume that that is an abbreviation for unfinished attic?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay. Ms. Johnson, could you, I don't have a page number unfortunately, but could you flip forward in that appraisal to the photograph page? I'm looking to see if there's a page number, and unfortunately I don't see one, but there are 3 photographs. There's a section of pages with photographs, and then there's a page with 3 of them, and the bottom one appears to be stairs. Can you flip to that page, please?
And the bottom one appears to be,
There's a page where the middle photograph is at the kitchen.
yes, that's a hallway.
Yes, ma'am. Are those the stairs on the right-hand side? Are those the stairs that go up to the attic space?
It is, well, it is, it's the stairs that go up.
Okay, Ms. Johnson, could you go to Defendant's Exhibit 8, please?
8,
Yes, ma'am.
okay. Okay, I am there.
Will you turn to the 5th photograph in that set, the photograph that is marked 4/28/2020?
Marked what?
In white numbers, 4/28/2020. It should be the 5th photograph in that set, in Defendant's Exhibit 8.
Mm. I don't, I don't have that. Oh, yes, I do. Okay, I'm there.
Yes, ma'am. Do you see those windows on the upper story of the house?
Yes, I
The
do.
dormers? Are those the dormers or windows that go into that attic space?
Those are the door, yes, they are.
Are there curtains in those windows?
Those are, no, it's material that I put across the windows because if you're going by the road and if there's nothing up there, you just see the open rafters. You just, that's what you see is the rafters up there. And I just thought it would make the house look better if something was covering those windows so that when you're going by the road, you don't just see the plain bare rafters. You know,
Sure.
particularly during the Christmas season when I have my house decorated, you know, I try to make it look the best that I can. But that is just material that I have put across there just to keep from people riding by and seeing the open rafters up there in the roof.
Yes, ma'am, I understand. Did you hang that material?
I thumbtacked it.
Okay. Were you standing on plywood or were you balancing on the rafters when you did that?
I put 1 foot on one rafter and 1 foot on the other rafter.
Ms. Johnson, one last question. Will you go to Defendant's Exhibit 9, please?
9. Okay.
Is this a copy of the building permit you applied for?
Now, I cannot answer that question because if this building permit was issued, it was issued, I'm assuming, to the Mr. Body, to the person that was doing the addition, but it was not issued to me.
Do you see in the middle of that page where there's a description of the job and list the project cost at $26,740?
Is that over? Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, we don't have any other questions for Ms. Johnson.
That was the carport, I believe. Is that correct? That building permit?
Well, I believe it's, Ms. Johnson will correct me, but I believe it's for the sunroom and the carport.
Well, I'm sorry, I meant
Yes, sir.
the carport and the sunroom, which she's not contesting that value. I believe she said yesterday.
Yes, sir. She had, through this process, she's contested that with the county. I understood yesterday she seemed to accept that value, but I just wanted to be clear on that point.
Sure, yeah, good point. Ms. Johnson, I think yesterday you indicated you did not have a problem with the value they had put on the Sunport.
Well, you know, Mr. Peters had asked me if I had read the entire appraisal report. And so I do want to go back and bring out something that is in that appraisal report.
All right, you'll have that chance. You'll have a
Okay.
chance for rebuttal evidence as soon as
Okay.
Peters finished. I just wanted to,
Okay.
and you can answer that question later if you would like that I ask, just for clarification purposes.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Peters, anything else?
No, Mr. Chairman, we don't have any questions for Ms. Johnson.
All right, Ms. Johnson, you're entitled
Okay.
now to go back and have any further evidence that you might want.
Yes, I would like to continue with the county's presentation in regards to the appraisal report. And I would like to bring focus to on this appraisal report that they have, that the appraiser has listed for my property a gross square footage of 1,888 square feet. And if you flip over, let's see, flip over to past the pictures to the floor plan sketch that is attached. If you see this floor plan sketch that is attached, and down at the bottom, the appraiser has listed all of my house, everything that he considered to be a part of my home, my property. And at the very bottom, he listed 1,888 square feet. And I feel that, you know, that's what should be utilized in the calculation of the square footage of my property. Going forward from here. And this is what the county has presented.
All right, anything else?
Nothing else in regards to their evidence that they have presented, except, oh, yes, it is. There is one thing, Mr. Peters had yesterday asked about this very first exhibit, which is dated 12/16/02. And he was asking about the attic space over on the side. And then all I can say is that the letter, which tried to clear up everything, is dated February the 7th, 2003. So that exhibit would have been prior to that. And I don't know why, you know, they have included that, but I do know that someone at the tax office has continuously tried to put that attic back up there. And I you know, I'm thinking now that really is what has started, you know, everything along with all the other errors and miss things that have been done. You know, that's part of why we're here today. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Excuse me, I didn't unmute. All right, if there's nothing else from your rebuttal evidence, Mr. Peters, any other recross from you?
No, Your Honor. No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Gass has a question.
Yes, thank you. And this is for the county. The taxpayer indicated that her attic contains her hot water heater, and her attic space contains her air handler for her air conditioning unit. My question has to do with a lot of houses are constructed in that manner where the attics hold the hot water heater for the house and might have the air handler, the return there. And sometimes the contractors, when they build the houses and they put in the hot water heater, they may lay a piece of loose plywood across the top of the rafters so that the tradesmen, when they carry in the hot water heaters or they install the air handler, that instead of them having to stand on and walk across the ceiling joists, they can walk across this loose piece of plywood. Does the county consider the fact that, and this would be for all residences in the county, does it consider that if a home is constructed with the hot water heater in the attic or the air conditioner air handler in the attic, and there's loose plywood that a tradesman might walk on, do you consider that to be taxable unfinished attic space?
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Ms. Lewis, can you answer that question?
Yes, sir, Mr. Giss. One, I would just like to clarify, I understood Ms. Johnson say that the stairwell leading to the attic contained the hot water heater and the air conditioner handler. Am I misunderstanding what she had said earlier? I'm sorry.
Ms.
Let's ask
Johnston,
her to clarify
can
that.
you clarify where the hot water heater and air handler is, please, ma'am?
Yes, the hot water heater and air handler is underneath those stairs.
Okay, so it's not up in the attic.
So,
It's not up in the attic, but it's underneath the stairs.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So I
Mhm.
misunderstood that. I appreciate the clarification.
Mhm.
My last question for the county is going back to your appraisal photograph, the last page, which shows a photograph of the interior of the attic, which shows the loose insulation and possibly some type of items being stored. My question there is, would you consider as unfinished taxable attic space the entire attic space where you have loose blown in insulation between rafters, or would you only consider as taxable unfinished attic space an area that would have plywood flooring, whether it was attached or unattached?
typically it is for what is able to be stored. And you can store items in between rafters, whether there's a floor or not a floor.
So okay,
so-
and so under that logic,
sorry,
then
I can't hear you.
under that
Yes, sir.
statement, the county will tell us that you are taxing every home in the county that has an attic that has an accessible attic, not pull down stairs, but a walk up, we'll say, whether it's floored or unfloored.
Yes, sir, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
We have
Very
a code in our schedule values to do so. And if it is assessed by a stairwell as such as Ms. Johnson, and it is over being used for storage purposes with either rafters or detached or attached flooring, then we attach it as an unfinished attic, not an unfinished upper story. We have a separate schedule for that.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I have a follow-up on that
Sure,
question.
Mr. Peasley.
So is your schedule of values, is it whether it is being used for storage or whether it can be used for storage? Because there's a difference there.
Whether it can be used for storage.
Okay. Now my next question is if it can be used for storage and there are stairs going up to it, not the pull down stairs, does it matter whether you have any flooring up there whatsoever? Can it be bare rafters? And does that qualify under the schedule of values as unfinished attic?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Ms. Michaud?
My question is, who developed this schedule?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was Ms. Michaud. That's Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Go ahead, Ms. Johnson.
Yes, I want to know who developed this schedule. That's my first question. My second question is, what difference does it make in terms of your ability to access an area, whether the stairs are permanently down or whether the stairs, you pull them down and go up? Because either way, you're still going to be able to access that upper area. And what person is going to store something on loose insulation? How reasonable is that? And fourth thing, and I didn't get to it in my presentation, but the house opposite mine, the house beside me, those houses have the same attic space, if not more, that I do. But in the county's assessments, they're listing their space as gables, but they listed my space as unfinished attic space. So there's a discrepancy there. So, but number one, who developed that
Ms.
schedule?
Johnson, you want to ask Ms. Lewis that question, I guess?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Lewis.
Okay, so the first question, who developed the schedules? Every 8 years, Edgecombe County conducts a countywide revaluation. At the 2017 revaluation, we hired a contractor, JWE Services, who is approved by the North Carolina Department of Revenue to conduct such a revaluation. Once those schedules were compiled, it was presented to the public for public presentation of review. Then the commissioners voted and approved those schedules at that time to be in effect for January 1, 2017.
And what about her question about?
I'm sorry, it was so many questions. Can you repeat those? Can you do the second one?
Ms.
Yes, he
Johnson?
was getting ready to go ahead and let him finish what he was going to say.
Well, I was asking, she wanted you to repeat the second question you asked about the gables, I believe, of the.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Now, so where would that schedule be maintained, and is it accessible to the public? And why would a contractor develop a schedule that says open flooring in an attic should be used as unfinished attic space? And does this same principle apply to every house in Edgecombe County? Because if I'm not mistaken, everybody got an attic. Everybody got some open space up at the top of their house with some rafters and some beams and stuff. So is everybody in Edgecombe County being assessed for unfinished attic space because of that schedule?
Everyone in Edgecombe County that has an accessible stairway as such as yours is being assessed an unfinished attic based on our schedule values. The contractor was hired by the county commissioners and conducted the revaluation in accordance with the statutes. The commissioners voted on it after the public hearing as required. The public had time to review those schedules prior to the vote by public petition. It was available in the county manager's office as well as online at the time of the public hearing. Anytime the public would like to see those schedule values, our office will be glad to share those. They are public record.
So what difference does a pull down stair and a permanent stairway makes? What is the difference if both are designed to provide access to space? What's the difference?
It makes a more permanent storage area and more easily accessible.
But you're not storing stuff on the stairs. You're talking about up in a space that's just rafters. You're not storing stuff on the stairs. So what difference does a permanent stairway and a pull down stairway make?
It makes a difference in the access and the ability to store versus a pull down.
So you can't carry a box up on a pull down stairway as well as you can on a permanent stairway?
I'm sorry, I can't answer to the easiness of carrying a box. It could be easier for one person versus the other person. But I could certainly carry a box up a stairwell easier than I could a pull down stairwell.
But either way, you're still carrying the box up the stairs.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it makes no difference. In essence, it makes no difference. Is that correct?
If that's the way you feel, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it makes no difference. So now, how do you determine whether a home is classified as having a gable if they have the same dormer windows that I have, but theirs is classified as having a gable and mine's is not?
Can you point me to the property that you're discussing so I can look at what you're asking about?
Tell me what your definition of a gable is.
Mr. Lilly might have to answer that, but which particular property are you referring to so I can look?
Can you give me your definition first?
The gable is the structure of the roof, meaning it's like a A-frame roof style.
So that gable, if it contains dormer windows, do you consider what is behind that dormer window?
If it's a permanent stairwell, we do consider that an upper attic. If it is available for storage, if it is finished with sheetrock and flooring, we consider that an unfinished upper story. If it's built out for a room, we consider that as a finished upper story.
But you are still saying that every house in Edgecombe County, including yours, that has an attic is being assessed for attic space.
I'm including that the Edgecombe County schedule of values are being applied equally throughout the county to the best of my ability of skills and knowledge.
Okay, so may I ask you, what was your intent in terms of trying to redact or recircumvent what employees of the Edgecombe County Tax Assessor's Office had previously done? You have made several attempts to try to include that attic, which has nothing but rafters and insulation in it, in the value of the home. Is there a reason why?
It is the goal of the tax assessor and the responsibility by statute to ensure that all property is listed for property tax purposes. And your attic space was omitted in 2013, in my opinion, by error by a staff person in the tax assessor's office previously to my staff.
Okay, so you're saying that
it was rediscovered that an error in your property record card had taken place and it was rediscovered.
It was not, so you're trying to say that you are not the one that committed the error, but two members of the Edgecombe County Tax Assessor's Office, they committed the error. Did you even take time to go back and review the file to see what had been said about that space? Because it was not an error. This letter dated February the 7th, 2003, clearly indicates that it was not an error, but it was intentionally done to make the value of the home more accurate. Do I need to read this to you again?
No, ma'am. I would like to answer your question. When the tax assessor, I was appointed in 2016. I do not go back and review 30,000 parcels for accuracy. My reval team was doing that at the time of taking office. When your appeal was presented to the tax office in 2020, we were able to go back and review your notes on the account based on your previous appeals. And one specific note stated that attic not finished per owner and appeal 2013. In addition to the letter that you stated, when I read this letter, I interpret that the previous appraiser, Ms. Richardson, and the assessor previously at the time, Ms. Cindy Coker, agreed that it was an attic space. Your time at that appeal, your home, your square footage was listed as an unfinished upper story, not an attic. And so when I read and did our research, it determined that our records indicate that you have an unfinished attic according to our schedules. So in my goal to correct the property record card as it should have been, I re-added the attic that appeared to have been removed in error in 2013.
Okay, so you're saying that they made an error or that they're trying to list it as attic space.
That's what her letter states.
Okay, I bring your attention back to your exhibit 1, which is dated 12/16/02, which precedes this letter dated February the 7th, 2003. And if you look on this exhibit 1, you'll see over to the side that attic space. Okay,
you'll see an
over
attic
there.
Space. It is listed as an unfinished upper story.
Okay, either way, it's included in the space for the house. If you look over here on the left-hand side, it's listed with 750 square feet, and it's included in that 2559 square footage.
That is correct, but it is included as an unfinished upper story.
Okay, either way,
as an unfinished attic.
Okay, either way, it's an unfinished upper story that has been included in the square footage of my home.
That's correct.
It was an unfinished upper story of 750 square feet. And it brought the square footage of my home up to 2559. Okay, now I do want to point out, I just saw this. They said 750 square feet. Now you're trying to give me 1,000 square feet. That's one discrepancy. But then I go back after seeing this, and you see on this plat that they have this unfinished upper story over on the side showing 750 square feet. But then when you read this letter, she says, I understand that you spoke with our assessor, and she agrees that the upper story of your home should be listed as attic space. Attic space is what everybody has in their home.
That is what we have
adjustment. I have made that adjustment and have also adjusted the sketch in our system to reflect your blueprints. Our assessor has also agreed to list your home in average condition instead of the previous listing of above average. This means that the value of real property is now $96,041. This value includes your lot and your house now at 100% complete. So not only did they adjust this attic space, they went ahead and did their work completely. They went ahead and took it out of your system so that it's no longer showing in your county system as unused story or whatever.
All right.
Now this is
Ms.
what
Johnson,
Cal did.
we've been over that letter 2 or 3 times, so let's see if Ms. Lewis has a response, and then I have a question for Ms. Lewis.
Yes, sir. So if you reflect back to the exhibit 1 that she stated, we had 750 square foot as an upper story, unfinished upper story. That was dated 12/16/2002. The Notes in the system indicate that the corrections were made per property owner's blueprints as of 2003. If you would look at Defendant's Exhibit 2, dated 8/13/08, it reflects a square footage of 998 square foot, including the dormer windows being drawn out. She indicated in the letter that assessed value for the attic was, the upper finished story was indicated changed to her upper unfinished attic as of the February. I'm sorry.
Ms. Lewis, let me ask you a question. Did
Yes,
I
sir.
understand you? Are you finished answering that? I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did I understand you to say that in the revaluation done by the county in 2017, I believe it was, that it did not show anything for the unfinished attic, I think we're calling it?
Yes, sir.
All righty. Let's see. I see a couple of hands here. Vice Chairman Wheeler.
Miss Johnson,
Yes,
in your letter, which is Defendant's Exhibit 10, letter you wrote, I assume to the county, or to us maybe, when you submitted your exhibits, and you talked about your taxes being paid in the second paragraph there, or the first paragraph. You're saying the results in a monthly bill of $136.50. Are you with me? Are you on that exhibit?
just 1 minute, but I know what yes, I'm here.
In the first paragraph, about the
Okay.
third or fourth sentence down, this results in a monthly bill of $136.50 to be paid to the county.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have an idea of what your taxes would be reduced by if this attic was removed from your tax card? And while you're looking at that, Miss Lewis, would you compute that for me?
Yes, sir. So based on our current 21 tax rates, her tax bill would be $6,040. Our tax rate would be $1.07 per 100. Her value of that upper story is $6,142. Her bill would be $65.71 for the 21 tax bill. Divided by 12 months would be roughly $5 and some change per month.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think what I had indicated what I indicated in my letter was the total tax assessed for my property. And without that space up there, I'm assuming that it would have been, I'm just assuming that it would have been $1,417.68 per year. But by adding it jumped up to $1,638 per year. And now it's at $1,701 per year. $1,701 per year based upon them putting their attic space up there. So when I divided that up, like I said, I'm a senior citizen with one-time income per month. And when I added that up, what was indicated in this letter is how much I have to set aside from my income in order to live in Edgecombe County and pay taxes there and be a contributing citizen. So that was $136.50 a month that I would have to set aside out of my Social Security income in order to be able to pay the county taxes being assessed on me.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Michaud, I think you had a question.
Yeah, this question is for the county. Ms. Lewis, when you value the attic space, the unfinished attic space, did you indicate a condition? Is that in your schedule of values?
Let me look real quick. The attic space takes the condition of the main building, which is an average condition.
Okay, so the house is the same as the house?
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
what you're saying? The entire house? Okay, the next condition under average, what is that?
I would have to look. I believe fair value, then below average.
It would be below average?
Is it below average? I'm sorry. Then fair, then poor.
Below average. If the condition were below average, what would the value be?
I would have to calculate that.
Did I understand you, Ms. Lewis, to say the next one under would be fair value?
I'm sorry, I had them mixed up. It was below average, then fair.
Okay.
Hold on, let me get to a place where I can calculate that. But you do know that puts that condition on the whole home and not just the building.
So that's
I would
how that. Mhm.
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you then. So you're saying that you could not identify this area to be at a different condition than the entire structure?
No, sir. I mean, no, ma'am. I could add it as a separate building and not part of I could do that. I'm not sure. And then apply a different condition if I added it as a separate building and not part of the main building. We just don't normally see an upper story or upper attic, unfinished attic as a separate building on our system. But I guess I could manually do that if I was had to do so, and then apply a different condition.
All right, Ms. Michaud, does that answer your question?
Yes,
Commissioner
thank you.
Okay. Are the other questions while we're taking questions here? I don't see any. Ms. Johnson, are you finished with your presentation now?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Peters, anything else that you need to ask or?
I don't have any further questions for Ms. Johnson, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. Then we finish with the plaintiffs, not the plaintiffs, but the taxpayers' information. And at this time, Mr. Peters, calling the county.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we'd like to first move to dismiss the appeal for failure to meet the standard. As the commission's well aware, the appellant has the burden to show that the county's presumed value is incorrect and that she must prove that the county employed an arbitrary or illegal method evaluation and that the assessed value was substantially exceed the true value of the property, or in other words, is unreasonably high. This appeal took a different turn than we expected it to. Initially, we expected this would be an in-depth discussion of the comps and of the sunroom. I believe the sunroom issue has been resolved. Ms. Johnson seems to admit the value of the sunroom is appropriate, or at least not contested strongly. We believe the building permit supports that increased valuation. As far as the comparables, as the Vice Chairman pointed out yesterday, the comparables, first, we believe are all distinguishable for several reasons, but more importantly, the average value per square foot for those 7 comparables offered by the appellant, it comes out to about $85 per square foot on average. The testimony yesterday was the value of her square footage was $78 per square foot, so certainly below the average and on the low end. I think the second lowest or third lowest of that group of 7. So we don't believe, and in addition, don't believe there's been any evidence that the method of valuation was arbitrary or illegal. Certainly, Ms. Johnson does not agree with the method of valuation of the property, and particularly the attic. But I don't believe there's been any testimony that that method has been illegal or arbitrary. The evidence offered by the county on her cross was that this schedule applies for the entire county and all attics would be treated the same. The attic, which became the center point here, you know, it's been a confusing issue, and we've gone back and forth, but the reality is that the county lists an attic space as unfinished attic space. There is, in fact, an unfinished attic space. The photograph and the appraisal supports that. I believe the image itself shows that there's an attic and it's not finished. It does, however, have storage up there. There appears to me to be very clearly items stored on at least half of that attic space. There's testimony that there's no plywood down, but obviously there's wood down in there. We believe that method of valuing that is not arbitrary. There is an attic space. The appraisal says there's an unfinished attic space. Ms. Johnson's letter from 2003 that we've gone over many times, I believe, indicates that she agreed in 2003 that this space should be listed as unfinished attic space. It's there. We know it's there. The schedule of values calls for it. So I believe it would be arbitrary not to include it as an unfinished attic space. I believe the county listing as such is exactly in line with the schedule of values and what the facts show from the photograph and from the appraiser's testimony yesterday. The testimony was, I think there's frustration over that fact, but the testimony has been clear that all attic spaces with pull down stairs like permanent stairs like that and not pull down stairs are treated the same. And therefore that is consistent and not arbitrary. And finally, you know, even with the confusion over that attic space, the second prong of that test for Ms. Johnson is that the value assessed by the county has substantially exceeded the true value and is unreasonably high. I don't believe there's been any testimony as to what the value should be for the property or for the attic, other than maybe not listing the attic. But the value of the property itself, again, based on the price per square footage, is on the low end and lower than the average. The comparables that Ms. Johnson offered is supported by the comps in the appraisal. I think it certainly does not substantially exceed the value. The true value is not unreasonably high. And for those reasons, Mr. Chairman, we move to dismiss the appeal because Ms. Johnson met the burden of proof. Mr. Chairman, I believe you
Ms.
mentioned
Johnson, excuse me. We'll hear from you now, Ms. Johnson, as your response to the county's motion to dismiss.
Thank you. I would like to say that I do not understand how the county can even ask that this be dismissed when the information that they presented in their exhibits show that the value that should be assessed to my house or to my property as it relates to the square footage is much, much less. The county has indicated that I have 3,529 square foot on my property. This is to include an attic with the rafters and the insulation pipes and so forth. But when the county paid an independent appraiser to come in and look at my house for their purposes, that appraiser indicated that there is no unfinished attic, that should be assessed with any value because he put zero value to it in his statement. That independent appraiser who was hired by the county for their purposes also indicated that my property had a total of 1,888 square feet that should be considered when developing or when computing tax values. And that is a far cry from the 3,529 square feet. Now, I refer you back to my presentation because on those parcel pages, the county used that total square footage, that 3,529 or whatever on the other exhibits to determine the tax value of your property. And as I've shown in those with those exhibits that I presented, you have houses that have upper stories, complete upper stories, not just rafters, but complete upper stories. They have wraparound porches. They have extra rooms on the other side of the carports. And yet their square footage for their entire property is still much less than mine. Then I want to say, there is just no justification for the county to assess another whole 1,000 square feet of space to my property value on June the 1st. After I filed an appeal, it would appear that it was in retaliation because I did file an appeal. And like I've been told before, I just need to do what they tell me to do. But I just don't think it's right. And like I saw previously, there's all kinds of discrepancies because initially there was only 750 square feet of attic space up there. Now it's up to 1,000. Where did additional footage come from? And what's reasonable to me, any person with their faculties about them would not believe that every house in Edgecombe County, which has rafters, which have beams, is being assessed a value for that space on top of their living space, especially when there is no flooring, especially, when there is no flooring. I feel and hope that you can see that there are discriminatory practices embedded in the administration of tax assessment in Edgecombe County. And I hope you see that there are economic inequities, intentional data misrepresentation. And I hope that you see that there is no way in the world that I should be assessed for 3,529 square feet to be used in the computation of taxes for my property when it's not there. And when all surrounding properties are being assessed at a lower value, and they got it. I mean, they have upper stories and all this other stuff. There is, like I said, there's nothing nailed down, but I've learned during this review that it's an individual thing, that some people's property are assessed as having a gable and some are as having unfinished attics. It all depends upon the assessor. They can utilize whatever word or pull up whatever, schedule or standard they want to apply in order to make the final computation more amenable or better for the person that they're assessing. It just depends on who they're assessing. And evidently it was not me. Some people properties are assessed as having stoops, while others are assessed as having porches. So now if you are assessed as having a stoop, and some of those stoops were larger than my porches that they had listed, then your tax value is lower than what it would be for a porch. So you see your words and how they use these standards to their benefit, to the benefit of their family, friends, and co-workers and others makes a difference. They can be beneficial to those who want to benefit and detrimental and harmful and burdensome to others. it is quite clear that the Edgecombe County Tax Assessor Office has no intent to apply assessment standards in a rational, accurate, reasonable, just, or fair manner. I therefore humbly request of the commission that it require the utilization of that arbitrary report by the appraiser hired by the county. In his report, he states a total living space, which is all inclusive of things he found on my property. That is to include the sun porch, that is to include the carport, and everything else he found on my property. And he listed it as having 1,888 square feet. This is found in the county's exhibit on the floor plan sketch, and also on the residential appraisal report on the gross living area that the county presented. So I just request that information provided by an independent agent that has been doing this and seen houses and knows what he's talking about be utilized in order to bring about a fair ending to this controversy created or that presents to us in regards to my property.
All right, thank you, Ms. Johnson. Any commissioners have any further questions before we go into executive sessions and deliberate on the county's motion? All right, seeing none, then we'll go into executive session and deliberate on this motion. And when we've reached a decision, we'll get back with you. Can you take us out, Ms. Mendette? Okay. I see Mr. Peters and Ms. Lewis, and it's showing that Ms. Johnson is on with audio. Is everybody back, Alexandra?
It appears that we do have everybody, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Alexandra, are you still with us? Steve, do we need her to be present? Are we okay going ahead?
No, sir. We appear to be streaming live, and as long as Ms. Johnson is able to speak and hear us, then it looks like we've got everyone that we need.
Okay, Ms. Johnson, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, and I see Mr. Peters. Mr. Peters, can you, he's nodding, he can
Yes, sir.
hear and see, and so, okay, we have everybody back. All right, the commission has just discussed this matter and deliberated on the presentation of Ms. Johnson and the rebuttal of the county, and has voted 4-1 to grant the motion of the county to dismiss. I voted to deny the motion. All right, Ms. Johnson, you will be getting a copy of the opinion or the order that will be filed in this case, probably in 30 to 60 days, and it will set out the reasoning of the majority in dismissing it, and the reason and the dissent, which you should get in, like I said, probably 30 to 60 days. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay. Do I have any rights from here?
Yes, ma'am. You in that letter and that order that'll go, the letter that goes with the order, it will set out your appeal rights. The appeal is to the North Carolina Court of Appeals. and it will set out the
Okay.
information regarding that.
Okay,
All right?
okay.
Anything else, Mr. Peters, Ms. Johnson?
No, Mr.
Okay, well,
Chairman,
thank
you.
y'all for the presentation, and so tomorrow we will be back at 9 o'clock. We have 2 motions to dismiss, one from Durham County and one from Onslow County. We had 2 other cases for hearing, but both of those were settled. All right, we will see you in the morning at 9 o'clock, commissioners. Thanks. Have a good
Thank you.
rest of the day.